Are you someone that came up with a great base idea that you wanted to build in No Man's Sky, but gave up because it was too frustrating to connect the old base building pieces with the new base building pieces, or had trouble with movement and rotation and things like that? Well, I'm Controlled Chaos, and this video, I'm going to talk about how you can solve some of those problems and also solutions I came up with that the No Man's Sky developers could implement to make the job easier, and it would really help out disabled people. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first example I have is right here. When we're talking about merging original base pieces with the new base pieces, such as the separated floors, things like that, like we have here, to these old pieces that we have here, you'll see that we have this in here. And the way I got this aligned is very simple. Here's the first hack for you. So when you choose this, make sure you have a wall up, and you can literally just snap that there, go in, and then go into C, edit, delete, boom. There's your piece perfectly aligned to everything else. So that's how you can align the old base pieces with the new base pieces. But you notice I had to delete the wall, and that there is now a gap right here that the player can actually fall through. And you don't want that. You don't want that gap there. So unfortunately, there's no easy way to fill in that gap. Yes, you could go over here and you could choose something like this piece here and try to get it to fit by going into freeform mode and messing with the rotations like so, and getting it rotated just right, and clicking again and rotating it again like so, and then going to place it and trying to get it to fit perfectly. This is really time consuming, and with someone like with disabilities like me, it makes it very hard to do. And so it's not worth my time. It takes me 4 to 6 times the amount of time because I have 2 disabilities fighting against me. I have an astigmatism where my eyes constantly shake, which disrupts the eye-hand coordination. I have cerebral palsy, which also disrupts the eye-hand coordination. I cannot spend hours on end trying to get things perfectly aligned. And that's the hard part, and that's another problem we're going to solve. But let's solve the first problem with this gap. Here's how we solve it. The way we solve it is by creating a new wall piece. So we have our original wall piece in this mock-up that I've created in Blender. And as you can see, it does exactly what the original one does. But if we go ahead and we hide that wall piece, then we put in the new wall piece. This wall piece. Look at that there. It works perfectly. It fits in nicely. And the great thing is I'll show you what this wall piece does. That's what the wall piece does right there. It's just cutting out the area that this fits in. And that's good. And here's the thing. You know how long this took me to model out? 5 minutes. And I did it in free software. I did it free in Blender. I know 3ds Max and Maya can do the same thing. It's subtractive modeling. So they can take the current wall piece and do a subtractive model of the old hallway piece and make the new piece. And the great thing is they won't have to do that much modifying to the UV maps. Everything still fits in. What they're doing is they're just adding in a new section right in here, and they can literally just put those in and have those sitting in the UV maps in this blank space that would be here. And it would look totally fine. I know I wouldn't complain by just seeing a little bit of seams. I would be happy have the piece that allows this to connect and snap in smoothly and fill those gaps so that you can't fall through the world. It works out nicely. It's a simple fix. It's what's called in the industry a bang for your buck fix. Any 3D modeler can do this. Even a new 3D modeler should know how to do subtractive modeling. It's a very simple thing to do. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the next thing. The next thing I want to talk about with 3D modeling is dealing with another part. And this part is right over here. And so you see how we have these rounded parts right here? Well, here's the problem. There is no corner piece to get these to match up. To get those to match up, you need to do things like this. And the problem is you now have this corner sitting there. Or you can use a box to make it seamless. But if I'm not wanting a tower piece here, I'm wanting this rounded piece to go around, there is no model part for that. On top of that, if we go in here and we go into the actual base area of this, you can see that it doesn't curve around like the others. Same with the one that is over here. It doesn't, on this side, yeah, it looks great. On this side, it looks terrible. Just wrong. So that needs to be fixed. And I've came up with the solution for that one. The solution for that one is this right here. Now, the great thing is I'm going to move these parts out because these are just the replicas of the pieces we already have. And so with that being said, look at that. And like I was showing, they all merged in well. It's seamless. Yes, you're seeing gray lines here, but that's because the two faces are fighting. There's faces fighting against one another. So you can ignore this part here. These are perfectly aligned to one another. It is perfectly smooth. If I were to work on the numbers a bit more, I could have this smooth and you wouldn't even notice those. But I wanted to make a quick demonstration to show what this is all about. The next thing I want to talk about is the movement and rotation. So the movement and rotation isn't that bad when it comes to the snapping. It's good with the snapping. The snapping is great. I'm running around in circles. So let's go out here. And the snapping works perfectly fine. I enjoy the snapping that it has. But when you're in here and you do freeform, like this is set up now, it doesn't work so well. You're having to use your scroll wheel and you're having to eyeball it like I was showing earlier. What I'd like to see is in the upper right hand corner, I would like to see something added. And what I'd like to see added is I'd like to see a rotation and movement. And the rotation and movement is just like what we're seeing here in Blender. You have your movement up here. So if I were to take this and I were to move this on the Z axis, I got two axes instead of one. So I take the Z axis. And I just move it on the Z axis. See how it moves on the Z axis? We don't need that kind of control. We already have the control in there. But what we can do is we can do something like this, 0.5. It moved up 0.5. You get really good direct control. We can click in here and change that to a 1. We could change that to a 2. And see how that works? That works amazing. It's almost like a snap, but with numbers. I would like to see this in here. I'd like to see it up here in this area. That would be really, really cool. And the way they could do it is because we're already in the build mode like this, you can't really do that kind of functionality because your cursor is locked onto that area. But give the control to bring up our menus. So when we're in here and you hit tab on the PC, you bring up the exosuit. Have the code state that when you're in build mode, that button press would unlock the mouse and then allow you to move over to that area and type those numbers in of your X, Y's, and Z's for the location and the X, Y's, and Z's for the rotation. And then have those values set at 0 on placement would be awesome. I think those would be good ways to do things and allow all of us to make some really cool stuff. And by that, I'm talking especially people with disabilities. With my nystagmatism and my cerebral palsy, my eye-hand coordination is total and utter crap. It takes me a long time to do that stuff. So doing it by numbers, I am as quick as everyone else. We got great builders out there like Beeblebum who makes great stuff. And I'd love to be one of those creators. I'd love to make videos on creating. What's holding me back is the controls we currently have in the game for doing rotation and movement, and some of the connection pieces that we have that we're missing, such as connecting old hallways to new buildings. That design that I showed of those two pieces would solve these problems. If you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, please hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe and have a great day.